Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us. This is Paulette with Kirkwood Community College, and I am pleased to introduce you to Patti Seda. She has a ton of experience as a trainer and in human resources, and I think you're going to enjoy the next half hour or so on the topic of employee engagement. Patti, on to you.
Great. Thank you so much, Paulette. Good morning, everyone. So glad you could join us today. We have a lot of content to cover, so I'm going to jump right in. The agenda today is what is employee engagement? Why is it important? And how do I get it? And how do I keep it? Those are always the three big questions. So let's start right off with our first chat. So if you can pull up the chat, I would like you to describe to me, what does a disengaged employee looks like? So let's start just with disengaged. How do they act? How do they look? What's the quality of their work? How do they care for clients? And how do they care for their coworkers? Little conversation, I'd really appreciate it. So how does a disengaged employee look? They're distant, yeah. Elusive, very good. They look tired, they look unhappy. They do the bare minimum just enough to get by, absolutely. They miss work. They are either physically or mentally absent. I'm guessing that may be what you're saying. Anything else? How are they taking care of the employees? Have you ever been to a store where you walk in and you see someone and you're going, yeah, they're a little disengaged. How did they act? How were they treating you? Rude, so rude. And how do they take care of their coworkers? Complain constantly, absolutely. Now let's flip it over and let's talk about what's an engaged employee look like. How do they act? How do they look? What's the quality of their work? How are they caring for their clients and their coworkers? They're going above and beyond, absolutely. They smile, sometimes annoyingly so much, right? You're like, what did you drink this morning? What did you have for breakfast? What else are they doing? Interested in the team. They want to help other people be happy. They make eye contact when you're talking to them. Great responses. These are all fantastic. In fact, I did a session for a manufacturing company just a couple weeks ago, and we actually drew it out on the board. And this is exactly the same list they came up with as well. So it's pretty universal. Thank you all for contributing. That was awesome. And I think what you just described is this. So here's what disengaged look like. And here's what engaged look like. They're just high five, belly bumps. They're having a great time. And this doesn't necessarily mean that they're not productive because they're all excited. It means they're really productive. And let's talk about what that looks like. So employee engagement is the extent to which employees feel passionate about their jobs, they're committed to the organization, and they put forth discretionary effort into their work. And that really is the key, the discretionary effort piece. You don't want them to just give enough to get by, but what is that extra effort that they're going to do? So let's take a look at a traditional workforce. What is the makeup? 12% of a traditional workforce is highly engaged. They're the people on the last slide that just look so excited to be there. 39% are engaged. They're fine. 40% are like, yes, somewhat engaged. They can flip back and forth. And then you have the 9 that are disengaged. Those are the people that you really just described. And so why is this important? Engaged employees stay with you. They have fewer sick days. They have lower error rates because they actually seem that they actually care. They have lower accident rates. We're going to talk about this in just a little bit. And they're significantly less likely to experience burnout, suffer from depression and anxiety, and behave badly with their friends and family. It's really interesting when you have someone who's disengaged and they go home and their family knows it. Their family knows that they're miserable because they have given everything they possibly can to the work they were doing, and they're exhausted and they can't take one more thing at home. And so it's great to have engaged employees because they bring that energy home to their family and friends and their committees and all the things that they're doing after work. Let's get to the ROI. This isn't just about warm, fuzzy stuff. This is about an engaged employee is worth 100% of their compensation. So you're getting what you're paying for. A highly engaged employee is worth 120%. So you're getting 20% more in value than just a regularly engaged employee. Now let's look at the flip side. Someone engaged, you're getting about 80%. And a disengaged, you have dropped now to almost half. You are getting half the value, and you are getting no discretionary effort. So what does this mean in terms of compensation? I like spreadsheets. I like charts. I like to see what does this actually look like. So if you have a company of 200 employees and 12% of your employee are highly engaged, you know those. Again, you're wondering what they drank for breakfast because they're just really happy to be there. You have about 24 of those folks running around. In a typical workforce of 200 people, you have 78% that are engaged, 80 that are somewhat engaged, and then you have these 18 that are disengaged and making everyone really miserable. They have a way of just spreading the non-love. Let's just put it that way. If you have an average compensation of $35,000, now what does this mean? Well, those 24 people that you're paying $35,000 to, you are writing checks and compensation for $840,000. So this is the actual value that you're going to see in your accounting systems. You're paying them $7 million. Now, what's the value that you're getting? You're highly engaged at 120%. You're actually getting over $1 million in value. The engaged, you're getting exactly what you're putting in, you're getting out. The somewhat engaged, that 2.8 million you're paying, you're getting about 2.2. And the disengaged, you're throwing about $300,000 right out the window because their $630,000 is really only worth about $378. So while this net of 6.3 doesn't look that far off the 7, here's where your group is right here. That's taking all the value out of that compensation. There's a $644,000 difference, but there's a lot more of that coming out right here. Remember, you're getting an extra $200,000 up here. So now what does all of that mean? What happens? I've been an HR executive for over 20 years. And I've worked in this environment before where you have some who are just high-fiving and belly bumps. And you have these 18 people walking around like zombies. And I can tell you almost on every occasion, the leadership team will come into my office and say, guess what they're saying? They're not saying, hey, what's going on? What can we do to help these 18 people? They're saying, we need to put them on a performance improvement plan as step one to get them out of the company. They are toxic. They are a cancer. They are ruining everybody else. They're making it miserable and they're not taking care of our employees. That is almost 100% of the time. So we'll go with 99% of the time. That is exactly what happens. Let's figure out how to get rid of these people. So what I'd really like to do is back up the bus. Let's rewind it a little bit and talk about, first of all, how do you get it and how do you keep it? How do you keep people from getting into that bottom rung right here? How do you get them up here farther, at least to engaged, if not highly engaged? There are so many different ways that you can measure engagement. I've seen hundreds and thousands of ways of doing it, and I've spent hundreds and thousands of dollars on different engagement surveys and reports, and I'm going to take a little dig at myself at some really highly paid consultants and big firms that have come in and done some engagement surveys. But I tell you what, some of the best, absolute best research came from Gallup, and it's called the Gallup Q12, 12 Qs. And it's their 12 questions that they've come up to measure engagement. It's based on 25 years of research. They've interviewed 1 million employees and surveyed with 100 questions. So they have 100 million data points. It's benchmarked against the most loyal employees and the most productive employees. And it's tied to business outcomes. They weren't just looking for people who were, deliriously happy about being at work, but they found what is that secret sauce that these employees are most loyal, most productive, and these companies have the best business outcomes. And the other thing Gallup provides is significant training and resources that you can get through books and online. And if you just Google Gallup Q12, you're going to find all kinds of resources as to the science and methodology behind this and what you can do to improve it. So I'm going to go through these Q12 questions. in about 5 minutes, I'm going to provide some examples. I could do this for about 3 hours and provide examples for every single one. But based on these 25 years of experience that I've had, I'd like to share some stories with you. And the unique perspective that I can bring is that I worked for the same company for 25 years. We went through a significant business model change. We went through 4 very distinct leadership changes and very distinct cultural changes. And all of those things impact your employee engagement. And so when we think back to that first slide where we talked about what does an engaged employee look like and what does a disengaged employee look like, I'm sure like all of you, I have worked with both. The unique thing is that I worked with both and it was the same employee. So in one culture and leadership and business model, they were President's Club winner. They were highly engaged. Everyone wanted them on their team. Fast forward a couple of years where we changed the business model, or maybe we changed the leadership team, or maybe we changed whatever. Now they're the disengaged employee. They're doing the same job, working in the same office, driving to the same parking lot every day, but something happened that changed them to disengaged. And the leadership team said, Patti, we got to get them fired. We got to get them out of here. They're toxic. So I'm going to share some examples of what that might look like. First of all, these Q12 questions. The first one is, I know what is expected of me at work. This seems really basic, right? But this is more than just someone is giving me a process manual on what I'm supposed to do from 8 o'clock in the morning till 5 o'clock p.m. That's not what this is all about. I know what's expected of me because I understand how it makes a bigger difference. Let me give you an example of this. This has nothing to do with where I worked. I did not work on a fighter jet. But this is Carly. Carly is the first, Carly Lorenz. She is the first female fighter pilot. She flew that $38 million bad boy that's in that picture on the left-hand side. And she was responsible for taking off, executing her mission, and landing safely. Because we don't like it when $38 million in assets ends up in the ocean, let alone Carly and her co-pilot. So it's really important that the people she's working with know exactly what they do and why they do it. It's not just a job. So there are thousands of people who work on these fighter jet landing, can't think of the word, I'm sure all of you know what that is. But there are thousands of people who work on that. The average age of the people working with her and making sure she takes off and lands safely is 19 and a half years old. Every 6 months, 50% of the people that she is working with turn over. So I will let you decide how important is it that every single person who is helping her take off, execute that mission, and land safely know what's expected of them and not just the little job description. Here's one of the things that they do to make sure that everybody knows what's expected of them. They wear different colored uniforms and helmets, and that designates what their job is. So if you have this color of a jersey and this color of a helmet, this is your task, and this is what it looks like. This has to be memorized. I would hope that in the morning, the first thing you do is put on the right color jersey and the right color helmet. Because if you know exactly what you're doing and why you're doing it, but you have the wrong colored stuff on, when Carly's trying to land that big bad boy, something's going to go wrong because she's looking for the wrong people. This is critical that people know what's expected, not only of themselves, but of each other. Next question. I have the equipment needed to do my job. I was working with a company about 10 years ago, and we decided that we were going to make it a 10 for orientation and new hires. We wanted people on their first day to go home when everybody was calling and texting saying, how was your first day at work? We wanted their response to be, you are not going to believe it. It was absolutely amazing. I can't believe I joined this amazing business. I knew what I was supposed to be doing, but they were more concerned about me, and I had everything that I need to do my job really well and feel really welcomed. but we were getting horrible scores when we first did the test to see how are people feeling about being here. And one of the big things we found was that almost everyone needed a computer to do their job, but over 40% didn't have a computer on their first day. What the heck? Can you imagine going home and telling your friends and family, yeah, I think I'm going to like it there, but I don't even have my computer yet. So we were able to figure out in the process that we needed to give IT a heads up much sooner in the process so they could get all the equipment to the desk and that person could sit down and right away, like your first day of school, unpack all your stuff from your backpack or your briefcase and feel like you were at home. It was really critical. I have the equipment needed to do my job. I have the opportunity to do what I do best. Now, I don't know a lot about football, but I'm pretty sure that if I'm a football coach, I really want this guy on the line and not this guy over here. And I'm telling you, we can give this guy over here all the protein drinks, all the workout plans, all the nutritional guidance. He is not going to look like this guy over here. Doesn't make this guy a bad guy. He may be a heck of a kicker. He may be the stats guy. I don't know. He is not on the line. But too often we find managers who say, listen, I just need you to be on the line. I just need you to follow up on this data. I just need you to do whatever. And what we're finding is we're putting the wrong people in the wrong job. Here you have Einstein's brain. It was analyzed 70 some years after he died. They preserved it. And it looks different. Now there's a lot of controversy. Is this a real analysis? But it's saying it looks different. Here's what I'm going to tell you. I do personality profiling or profiles to help find which job people will have a chance of being more successful. This is my husband's profile. He's a realtor. He's really creative. He's all about goals. He likes people a lot. He has wicked pace. He can juggle 14 things at a time. And he has not had a written calendar, even a calendar in his phone, until the last year or so. He is able to keep every single detail organized and in his head, he has wicked follow through. Here's mine. I'm really creative. I'm about goals, but I'm more about helping people. I have more patience and I like a lot of structure, but I can tell you what, if I don't write it down, it's probably not going to happen. These are the different profiles, and you can get me up every single morning and teach me and teach me and teach me how to look more like this. And I might be able to fake it for a little bit, but my profile is never going to look like this. Please, please, if nothing else, make sure you're getting the right people in the right job so they have the opportunity to do what they do best every single day. The next one, my colleagues are committed to quality work. I wish I could give a story on all of these, but we're closing up on time. My opinions count. 91% of the engaged employees are saying, yes, my opinions count. Of those who are disengaged, 19%, no, my opinions do not count. That's what these percentages mean. My job is important to the mission of what we're trying to do here. My manager actually cares about me. They take time to find out what's going on with me, and I know I can just feel it. They care. I have a best friend at work. That's a whole session for another day, but there's a lot of research that says if you have friends at work, if you're creating an environment where people have friends at work and they know and trust each other, it's a game changer. I have opportunities to learn and grow. That doesn't mean I get promoted every 6 months, but if you're not learning, you're dying in today's environment. You have to give people the opportunity to learn and grow. I have received praise. Here's my last story I'm going to tell. Report cards. In the old days, back when I went to school, you got a report card maybe at the end of the semester, but definitely at the end of the year. How often do we do this for employees? It doesn't work. You need to give employees feedback. What you reinforce is what you get. What you don't is what you lose. And if you're reinforcing great behavior, you're going to keep getting it. If you're reinforcing bad behavior by not addressing it, that's what you're going to continue to get. Now, again, I'm not a football player, and there's a lot of old school that says this is the way you motivate people. I don't know. I'm seeing a lot more success with this approach. Hey, listen, let's talk about what's going on out there. Let's get going. Here are a couple tweaks you need to make. Let's get back in the game. It's more of a coaching mentality versus a screaming in your face. Look at the way he's physically standing back. This is a big dude. And he is like, whoa, what's going on? I'm going to tell you a really quick story. This is my daughter. Her name's Stephanie. She played volleyball during high school and college, and now she's a volleyball coach. She loves volleyball. And they had a pretty good team at the old Mount Mercy University. And but there was one game that it just wasn't clicking. They were making mistake after mistake after mistake, and it just wasn't the team. And you know what happens to a crowd when your team starts to lose? You start to yell at them, because by God, I know that if I just scream louder and tell them what to do, they're going to get their head out of their rear end and they're going to do it. You're all nodding. You've been in that crowd. Maybe you've been that parent. I decided at that game I was going to take a different approach. I decided at that game that I was going to cheer for them and encourage them and praise them and get them so excited about what they were doing. I was standing up and clapping and cheering, and my husband, you could physically see him scooting away from me on the bleacher. But you know what? They started to turn it around a little bit. And all of them told me afterwards, thank you so much. We so appreciated hearing some positive feedback at that particular time, because we were down and we couldn't figure out how to turn it around. Now, I'd like to tell you they won. They didn't. But I tell you what, they lost by a whole lot less than what they would have if they wouldn't have heard some positive encouragement. The power of positive encouragement is so important. And it's not a blue ribbon for everybody. It's not a trophy for everyone. It's giving people that encouragement to say, I believe in you. I know you can do this. Let's do it together. That's what I'm talking about for recognition and praise. Someone encourages my development, and someone has talked to me about my progress. Employee engagement, I'm going to bring this back home. The extent to which employees feel passionate about their jobs, are committed to the organization, and put forth discretionary effort into their work. Thank you so much for allowing me to present today. I really appreciate your time. I'm going to flip this back over to Paulette, and she's going to wrap it up for the last few minutes. Paulette?
Thank you, Patti. I certainly learned something. I hope everybody else on the line did too. If you'd like to hear Patti again, she's part of a series, a 7-month series that starts June 21st that Kirkwood will be offering in Washington County. So to register for that and learn more about it, you can call Gail at 319-398-5623. And it's called our Washington County Business Partner. So other topics are leadership, organization. Patti will be back with employee performance, social media, critical conversations, and buddy to boss. So all things that are very relevant to workplaces, whether they are manufacturing settings or office settings. So we do hope you'll consider registering for that and call 319-398-5623. In the meantime, if everybody has any questions, you could type them, and Patti is still on the line and she'd be happy to answer them. But hopefully you had some good information to take away from today's session. It will be recorded and put on our YouTube website. So for those of you we have emails for, we'll send that out to you. If we don't, feel free to give us a call with your email and we'll be sure and send you that link.